Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's CX Quick Tips with Mike Wittenstein. So today we're going to talk about why you should stop using a mission statement, why you should stop measuring, talk about new feedback methods, and then new conversation methods with these proven market strategies that are going to keep your customer experience transformation on track. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button, so you can be notified of any time we do these CX Quick Tips. By the way, I'll make it easy for you. It's every single Tuesday at 1:05 Eastern. Mike Wittenstein, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Jim, it's great to be here with you again. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, man, I appreciate it. Because every time, it's easy to have you back because every time we're getting into things that are just so enlightening and quite frankly, different in perspective that causes me to pause and hopefully cause everybody to take a better action than we were taking before. So thank you very much.
Well, that's what
Tell us a little bit about these.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's what Quick Tips is all about. That's what you engineered.
That's right. Okay, so if you could, please go ahead and launch us on what do you mean by stop using a mission statement?
Sure. Well, mission statements, lots of companies have them, and often they're done too quickly with too much alcohol. Let's go away for the weekend and get a mission statement put together. Most of them are kind of vague. I'm not talking about the really popular ones from some of the best brands in the world, but most companies have a just mediocre at best mission statement. We're going to be the best people at selling cars east of the Mississippi. Okay, well, what does that tell you? How do you measure that? How do you know? What value does that give your customers? And how does it inform your staff about how to get there? At Story Miners, we like to use what's called a reason for being. I found out about it from a guy named Stephen Heckel at IBM when I was working there as e-visionary. And this is his translation of system science and design thinking into the way you organize a business so that on purpose and by design, it can create more value for customers. So it's got three parts to it. The first part of a reason for being is to know who your primary audience is. I said primary because every company has several audiences, but you have to pick one that you design for primarily. The second thing it has to have is a clear indication of what your valued outcome is. So there's something that you produce. It can be a transformation, a change, a product, a service, a combination of those things, but it has to be valued. And the value that you include in your reason for being is not the value to your company or to you. It's what your customers value. To know that, you have to know your customers. You've got to listen in. You've got to know that what you produce best is what they need most. The third thing is, how are your customers going to use what you give them? They're using you and your company's capabilities to create something else. If I'm selling flour and sugar, the bakery is making a cake. The cake makes the kid happy at the birthday party. The birthday party makes the kid popular, and so on and so on. So you've got to know how people are going to be using what you do. So quick recap: for whom, what value, and what they get out of it. That's a reason for being, and it works. It works to get things changed, and it keeps them. It sustains the change as well.
It's more living. And more so than what you had mentioned before in regards to what is typically done.
Yeah, exactly. It's not something that you just put on the wall or that you forget about. It's your number one promise to customers. It's what your brand promises and what your business delivers. A reason for being, a test for a good one is if somebody in the organization doesn't know what to do in their job. Let's say they're facing a first of a kind situation and they've got to figure it out on their own because nobody's there and the internet's down. They'll think about that reason for being and they know what to do. It's got to be that good.
Especially in today's world, when we start talking about the dispersion, of the workforce, it's becoming more remote, even globally as we go. I think having that type of connection is really vitally important because if we don't have that, that means our organizational risk starts going up to a degree that probably isn't acceptable. Okay, so you said also stop measuring. What do you mean by that?
Well, that sounded a little bit alarmist. Can't have customer experience and not measure stuff. But a lot of the things that people measure, especially when client executives drive the decisions, they want to keep more of the same metrics going. They brought customer experience into the business because they want more sales. They want more turnover. They want lower costs. They want, higher lifetime value of customers and lower churn, all those kinds of things. The problem is that a lot of times those measures carry this legacy baggage with them. They even carry bias. Let's take a look at a brand new situation. Suppose you're creating a new capability. You're introducing Zipcar for the first time. Nobody's ever done, a fast little rental anonymous pickup service before. How are you going to figure out the ROI on that? What if you're changing in an existing business the kind of value that you offer to customers? For example, let's say you're a pharmacy and you're doing distribution. Usually people would pick up each little box of pills. Now after Amazon purchased Pillbox or whatever it was called, you can get all of your pills in a package for morning, afternoon, and evening, and they all come on a roll. And you just pull out next dose and everything's going to be great. How do you calculate ROI on that? If you compare it to packaged medications where everything is in bulk, you're going to lose on the price. If you compare it to ease of manufacture, you're going to lose on complexity. But guess what? Customers love it. Doctors love it. Patients love it. Caregivers love it. So what's the value in it for them? That's the part that you need to be able to be adaptive about and change toward. So just look at those measures and make sure that you've got a good mix of the ones that got you here and the ones that can move you forward.
Well, as you say that, I start thinking about what you had mentioned next, which is new feedback methods. I would dare to say that those two go very closely together.
Absolutely. I just did a piece a little while ago on telemetry, and we're so used in the customer experience business to doing, surveys, interventions, mystery shopping, all these things, and there's a certain lag in how long it takes to get the information back. Even when you're walking through the airport, and I hate this example, but you're going out of the men's room and there's this little thing with 3 smiley faces and you're supposed to touch, happy, medium, or sad. Who is going to touch that thing? Oh my gosh. Anyway, it's almost instant to get that stuff back, but there's still a lag between the time you get the information and you can take action. Everybody's talking about predictive metrics. But what if you hardwire your information sources to your algorithms that provide service? What if you know how much is being sold at all of your stores east of the Mississippi between 12 and 1 o'clock, and you feed that right to your call center? What if you know the customers that have called about a complaint in the last 30 days, and you can react and respond accordingly or route their calls a little bit faster? So if you can turn on telemetry full time and analyze it in real time, you don't need to do as many surveys because you've hardwired good customer experience thinking into the way your business operates.
So if I started thinking about, some of the new feedback methods, I also start thinking about some of the things that we should probably stop doing. Is there anything that comes to mind when we say that?
Stop doing, let's see. Measurement for measurement's sake, just doing the same thing you did before. This might be a little bit off the path here, Jim, but I believe that one of the things a lot of people aren't focusing on enough is organizational learning. Learning, in my opinion, for some businesses should be elevated to the level of strategy, so that as you're picking your daily to-dos, you can also pick your daily things to learn, because what you learn today becomes tomorrow's capabilities. So when it comes to things to stop doing, don't stop experimenting. You've got to do that. And you've got to stop doing things the same way. I hope that brings it around a little bit.
Well, I mean, for me, okay, so you bring up an important point. I was on a podcast the other week as a guest, and we were talking about, this learning, and they started mentioning something about employees are more engaged when they have more autonomy, and we've seen these statistics at a high level, and people talk about them. And I said,
Yeah.
That's all fine and dandy, but if you want to give your people more autonomy, you inherently have to be a learning organization, because giving people autonomy that are low skill, your risk level just went through the roof.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you can't let people decide the better way to build a ball bearing. You've got to get those right to, a 10,000th of an inch every single time, day after day, night, day, and in between. You're absolutely right about that.
Well, then the other thing is you talked about new conversation methods. What are they?
Yes. Anytime you're doing a change, if you're a leader, for example, you might spend 1 minute working on strategy or an hour or several days. You've got to spend at least that much time communicating that strategy to your team, to the field, to the press, to the board, and so on. One of the things that I like to do is consider how can we create new channels, because those draw lots of attention. So let's imagine that you've got an organization with 1,000 people in it, and it's got 20 different departments, and half of them are engaged in some kind of new CX activity. They're building some kind of new service. Well, 10 of those departments are touching that customer experience new build. Why not do podcasts with 10 different hosts, one for each of those different departments, so they can start talking in their own language and from their own perspective about where they are, what they're doing, where they're headed, and how things are going. It's kind of like a news report from the field. It gives everybody a chance to see that the given circumstances are changing, but through a trusted eye of one of the folks on their team, they can start to see what's going on. Another example of that is Clubhouse, because you just like push a button and you're in to listen. Why not set some of those up for your company, or for your trading circles, or with your partners, or with your board, or whatever? But you can bring people together who normally don't speak with each other almost instantly. And it doesn't have the bandwidth and the formality of a Zoom call, and definitely not of an in-person meeting. So you can create your own kind of positive grapevine using either of those tools, but more communication is usually better. And starting those things off, making that part of the work of change, is the way to get your projects across the finish line, in my opinion.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mike Wittenstein, this is why I love having you on anything that I do, quite frankly, because you bring these, new perspectives, because a lot of times what happens is we repeat the same things. We will find and access information from something that may have worked for, quite frankly, a lot of people a while ago, but they may not be the best thing to do now. And so we need to make
Yeah.
adjustments and know about these new things. Mike Wittenstein, how do folks get in touch with you?
You can find everything out at storyminers.com, STORYMINERS.com. And if you have a question that you'd like to ask, type this into your URL address bar, storyminers.com/YAMA. That stands for You Ask, Mike Answers. Watch a short little video, click the orange button, ask your question, and you'll get a custom answer, really thoughtful, in about 48 hours. Thanks, Jim.
And Mike, thanks for being a trusted contributor to CX Global Media. And we appreciate you sharing your wisdom and wish you the very best.